First name's Donnie, last name's Glover. Entered the winner for the long haul, baby. Welcome to the New Life Recovery Show, where if I think better, I do better. We have a very special guest and a very special topic today. Attorney Bob Dashiell. How are you, sir? Good morning.
Good morning, Donnie. How are you?
You know, I can say yesterday I had a chance, or last night, I had a chance to do something I've never done before. I was with my son and my brother at the same time.
Yeah. Where was this?
We stopped by my brother's house. You know how sometimes those family relationships get a little distant over time.
I think I know a little bit about that.
My brother's wife, they've been married 55 years. She hasn't seen my son since my father passed in 2003. Now, my brother hasn't seen him in maybe 12 years or so. And as I'm sitting there with essentially 3 generations of my bloodline, one older, one younger, I couldn't be anything but grateful. That's really where my spirit was. And that's where my big brother was. He's I guess he's about 75 now, 76. And he was just grateful. And then we pulled in a picture of my mom. She's been gone for 39 years. Mr. Bob, you went through a tragic loss this week. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I guess it was the day before yesterday. I got a call in the evening from one of my 2 remaining brothers in North Carolina to tell me that our youngest nephew had been shot and killed down in Salisbury, Maryland. He was our sister, who passed many years ago, had 3 boys. One passed years ago from the complications from HIV, and her youngest son, Kevin, was the one that was killed a couple of days ago. He was 31 years old. All I know at this time is that it was a shooting. I understand there were a couple of people shot. Apparently, he was the only fatality, but I don't really know any circumstances relating to the event. The greatest tragedy, or a greater tragedy for me, is that he never really had a chance to live, and he didn't live long enough to comprehend the fact that there was a much different world available for him than the one that he felt resigned to. So it's a tragic thing.
You know, my son is 28. He grew up here in Sandtown. And I understand what our young men go through. You understand.
Yes.
I mean, you're from Salisbury, and then you came to Baltimore City, and you understand the transition. Like in this neighborhood now, Sandtown, you wouldn't believe how many non-Black addicts are in this community now since Freddie Gray. Before Freddie Gray, you see nothing but Black people chasing the thing. Now we got people from all area codes.
Why is that?
Fantastic. It's a free fall. The police have taken a knee since Freddie Gray. It's acceptable now. There was a time when white addicts, quite honestly, paid Black addicts to go and get the stuff and bring it back to their car. Now, the white addicts have taken up shop, squatting even. There are no rules. And it's a whole different culture. People shoot dope in broad daylight on the playground where kids are. There's no rules.
You think that situation exists only in Sandtown, or
no, all over.
Oh, Okay.
But it starts Baltimore sets the tone. East Baltimore, West Baltimore. I remember a time, if I went to South Baltimore, I was 10, 11 years old, you get chased out of there. You go too far deep into Carroll Park, you get chased up Monroe Street, at least to Wilkins Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't go down to Fort McHenry. It was real segregated. Now they say that drugs and music bring people across color lines.
Hmm.
But it also brings with it a violence. I mean, there was a drug dealer around the corner about 5 years ago. He caught 10 to the dome. Broad daylight. Trying to expand too far. The violence, I mean, I can just look out this window. I don't need cable television. I can just look out this window, and on any given day, something might happen. Not typically, but it can happen.
I sense a feeling of a look of hopelessness and helplessness in many parts of our community, and which to my mind reflects a real lack of leadership. Not, I don't mean necessarily political leadership. I'm also talking about moral leadership. People that not only not only do many people feel that they have nothing to look forward to, but even worse, they have no one to look up to. And so they go in whatever direction appears. It's like water. You follow the course of least resistance.
You know, one thing that I'm learning and have learned, especially in the 22 years since I was in the street chasing the dope and the coke, is that you need a support system.
Yeah.
I shared with you how my mom passed back in '85. I'll never forget some words she said. You know how the ancestors would drop those jewels on you.
Yeah.
Especially when you're being bad.
Yeah.
She said, "You're gonna miss me when I'm gone."
Yeah. Truer words were never spoken.
And I guess the big lesson in that was to remember the things she taught me, like God don't like ugly and care less for beauty.
And two wrongs don't make a right. And you make your bed hard, you're gonna have to lay in it.
Yeah.
And if you don't start it, you won't have it to stop. Oh yeah. Those were the gems.
She said, "You don't appreciate shit."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've since learned that if you give me a cup of water, if you let me over, if you open the door for me, thank you. Kind of what grandma said, use your manners. We don't even use manners anymore, Mr. Bob.
No.
Please, thank you. If you let me over the lane, I swear to beans, you give me a minute to get my bearings, I'm going to roll that window down and give you the peace sign, because you didn't have to do it.
Right.
And that's what I think people see in this election, or some people see, because there seems to be a divide. There seems to be the human, and there seems to be the animalistic. And yes, I think Trump's people are animalistic. You're calling people names. You're degrading women. I mean, I've never seen grown men so intimidated by a woman. I mean,
well, like I said, Kamala has a double whammy. In addition to being Black, she also is female, and so you got the misogyny thing going on, in addition to the racial thing going on, and the opponents of humanity all have congregated and assembled together under the Trump banner, and nobody calls them out for that. I mean, and that bothers me, and that lack of testicular fortitude, and women can have testicular fortitude. They don't have testicles, but they can have testicular fortitude, In fact, in our community, the black women seem to have more of it than black men, to be quite honest.
I'm glad somebody finally said it.
Yeah, all you got to do is look around. All you got to do is look around, and you know, and Kamala and her advisors who still move, who still operate from the point of view of let's not say or do anything that will too greatly offend white folk, won't allow her to tell the truth. They won't allow her to talk about the Oath Keepers or the Proud Boys or the KKK or all those similar degenerates who are all assembled together in the Trump camp. You can call them a fascist, you can call them anything you want, but you can't call them a racist. You can't talk about the people. You can't talk about the deplorables, as Hillary referred to them, because that's off limits. That then you're playing the race card.
Now, I read an article last night that exactly pulled the race card. White males are finally getting a taste of their own medicine, and they don't like it. And my thing is, you know, Mr. Bob, one thing I know about you is that you're fair. And I think you will agree with this. Don't give it if you can't take it.
Yeah.
We live in a nation of people who can give it, but they can't take it.
Yeah, because their assessment of what they would take, what they can take, is greatly exaggerated. We don't know what strength is, and we certainly don't know how to measure it. We still live in a time we act like that the outcome is going to be determined by who's got the fastest draw. Like it's going to be settled at the OK Corral at sundown or sunup, whichever the case may be. We don't know what strength is. The idea, you know, I told somebody yesterday, we fight as a community. I'm talking about black people now. We fight to sit at the table, the same tables that Jesus overturned.
We got to write that one down. That is such a jewel, and we're going to coin you saying it.
We fight to sit at the tables he overturned. And we applaud one another for if we think we've got a seat there. But he overturned those tables
Fight for a seat at the same table that Jesus kicked over.
Right, sir. That's right.
And we're going to save that one for a long time. What do you mean by that? And I know it's self-explanatory.
We in our desire for acceptance within a community that we think that is in control, rightly in control of everything, we are willing to do what we believe we see them doing to achieve what we believe they have achieved. So we pass laws that would require white companies to have somebody that looks like us sitting at their board table, as though sitting at their board table was a sign of accomplishment or a sign of progress or a sign of acceptance. But the minute you fashion your goal, your ambition with the premise that somebody else must accept you, you've already lost the race. The minute you let somebody else tell you what the rules are, you mostly are sure you can't win. Because if you get close, they're gonna raise the bar. If you get close, they're gonna make sure that no more than one or two of you can get through at a time, if at all. The fact of the matter is that it all stems from, Donnie, the fact that there are many people, white people, not all, many people who still are in denial of our humanity. They are in denial of the fact that God did not create equality among his children. God didn't create black or white. He created color because he loved the rainbow. But he didn't make one color superior to the other. We did that. And we have, unfortunately, for black people, we have accepted it. We'll go by whatever name somebody else calls us. You going to call us Negro? We'll be Negroes. You want to call us people of color? We'll be people of color. You want to call us African American? We'll even be African American. Forget about the white man from from South Africa who becomes an American citizen. What is he? Isn't he an African American? Right. So we've given up the right to define ourselves and to align ourselves with our own Creator, and that's what Grandma kept. Grandma kept her hand on the rock. Grandma knew the rock. And we've abandoned grandma. Well, we got too many grandmas today down at Maryland Live. We got too many grandmas still catching the bus down at Mondawmin on the way to Atlantic City or wherever you go. I maybe out to Harford County. I don't really know. But the grandmas of our generation, of your generation, our grandmas had their hands on the rock, and we've left them sitting there, and they're groaning daily.
My grandma, man, I think about it. I think about Grandma Flossie. You remember that song? Bill Withers sang it.
Grandma's hands.
Yeah, then Gil Scott sang it.
Yeah.
Grandma's, man, I think of that song. I think of my Grandma Flossie. And then I think today, where you got grandmas with tattoos all over the place. And I think, could I imagine my grandma with a tattoo?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I can't.
No.
Grandma was always grandma.
No. If you came home with that, grandma would say, boy, use your head for something other than a hat rack. If a bird had your brains, it flies sideways. That's what the real grandma would say to you. She would say to you, 2 wrongs don't make a right. She would tell you that if you make your bed hard, you got to lay in it. She would tell you those things. And she would tell you that you had to be twice as good to get ahead. Now, that's because grandma tried to protect us as much as she tried to nurture us and guide us. Grandma has seen tragedies that we've never seen, and she didn't want us to see. So it's understandable that grandma may have been somewhat reticent to send us off into a world where she feared for our life. She feared that we may be lynched. She feared that we left. She wasn't talking about the police brutality. She was just talking about a world where white men decided when black people could live or die at whim. That was the world that grandma saw. And that's what grandma was trying to. So I don't fault grandma.
She did the best she knew how.
Yeah, she did the best she knew how. And the fact that we exist means she did okay. How you gonna blame somebody for something that if they didn't do well, you wouldn't even be alive today? How you gonna blame them for anything?
I don't know if I ever told you this, but 4:00 on Mondays. Now, you've been in Baltimore long enough to know about Channel 45, the real Channel 45.
Yeah.
When they had Ghost Host Theater on Friday nights.
Yeah.
But for teeny boppers, weekdays at 3:00, they had Captain Chesapeake.
Oh, yeah. I remember him.
And I remember I stayed at grandma's house waiting on my dad after school to take me back to East Baltimore. And grandma come in the door about 4:00. But on Mondays, the praying man would be there. And every Monday at 4:00, he'd come in, me and my grandpa, we'd have prayer. And it wasn't just the Lord's Prayer. Oh no. The praying man came in. And when he got down on his knees, me and grandpa, that prayer was going to be I wasn't watching no Captain Chesapeake. That's what I want to tell you. Wasn't no Captain Chesapeake. If you don't catch it before 4:00, once he come in there, you're going to be on your knees for a good hour and a half. And I can tell you that what I learned is that prayer, come on in, that prayer changes things. Come on. Tell me about prayer in your life.
The thing that I could tell you first is that I haven't done enough of it. because what prayer does, one of the things that prayer does is remind us who's in charge. And one of the things my grandmother used to say, sometimes we get too big for our britches.
Yeah.
She would put it this way, boy, you must be smelling yourself today.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something else Grandma said. Now this wasn't Mondays, because the prayer man, he was gonna pray on Mondays. But when she would come in, now I'm tuned in to Captain Chesapeake, tuned in. Ahoy, crew members, tuned in. Bondy the Sea Monster, all of that. Grandma come in, she walking real slowly. She was up there. She would say, hey, Donnie boy. Now don't you tell nobody they call me Donnie boy, Mr. Bob. She said, hey, Donnie boy. And I'm zoomed in.
I lost you. I've lost you. I don't know what you're saying. I'm sure it's something I want to hear, and extremely profound, but I'm hearing only crickets. It's silence.
Okay, you still there, Mr. Bob?
Yep, you're back now. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta get changes for Verizon. Come on, dog. Well, anyway, she said if you don't speak, you don't eat. That's the bottom line. She said if you don't speak, you don't eat. And I'll never forget that lesson from Grandma. Speak. You better say it even. She get in that kitchen, start cooking up. She said, all right. She go in the kitchen and she started cooking, and man, I tell you, that rice and them pork chops, because you know that was before we learned about Islam. We was eating that pork chops and whatever Grandma put in that pot. You wasn't saying no salam alaikum. He was just trying to get with that dinner that Grandma was cooking. I'm just telling you the truth, Mr. Bob. You know, but I go in the kitchen, mosey on in the kitchen. Good evening, and she said, "Oh, you can speak now."
Yeah. You know, one of the things that Elijah Cummings used to say back, you know, we were partners for a good time before he went into Congress. In fact, I was one of the ones, at least, who encouraged him to run back in the mid-90s. He was afraid that Frank Reed, who at the time was the pastor at Bethel Church, was a shoo-in. And my opinion was that Frank Reed couldn't win the election if only Bethel people could vote. But in any event, one thing that Elijah used to say, and I never forgot, and it was absolutely true. He says it doesn't cost you anything to say thank you. They cost you a penny. And yeah, that stuck with me, and because no matter whether he meant it or not, he always said thank you, and he was right, because that's what. Now, he didn't invent that. I'm sure he got it from his grandma, and that was another another thing that, you know, saying please and thank you reinforces our humanity.
I gotta tell you this. I'm over at Howard University on Friday, and this man says something, and I gotta say it. It's if you're gonna tell one side of the story, you gotta tell the other side of the story. This man praised Elijah Cummings. This man from Howard University praised Elijah Cummings. And he said he praised him because if it weren't for Elijah, Howard University would not have 2 XM radio stations. he said as the transition came in, that Elijah, and I believe he was a Howard University law school grad.
Yes.
They said they spoke so highly. Now, I used to have my battles with the congressman.
Yeah.
But on this show right here, I'm going to tell you, they praised him, and they still praise him at Howard University for his efforts on behalf of the school. And it had to do with BET and the Viacom thing and XM radio. And he did something that I didn't know. And so if I'm going to talk smack about him, then I got to tell the good side too. That he created media opportunities for Howard University to not have just one XM station, but 2 XM stations. And
you know, Donnie,
I did hear his speech though. I did hear his speech about the sharecropper, maybe 1 too many times though. But he was consistent.
Yeah, and he didn't it wasn't his, but he picked up on parents' use of Benjamin May's minute speech. We only have a minute, only 60 seconds in it. That was the parent said that. Parent Mitchell said that for years and years, and Elijah picked up on that. You know, Elijah shares something that we all share. But we're at various stages of denial, and that is that we're all just flesh and blood. If we look for the evil or the bad in each of us, we'll find it because we don't have any way of avoiding it. We don't have any way of really eliminating it. So our mission ought to be to look for the good in one another, not for the bad. The bad will be there, and we'll be judged on it. But we're not the judge. But look for the good. Look, because it's the good. Real positive change only comes from intentionally positive action. They'll come by accident. Doesn't come by happenstance. It's not coincidental. It's planned. It's envisioned. And unfortunately, we lost our leadership when the civil rights era came to a close. In fact, the civil rights era came to a close because of lack of leadership. Because it never confronted the real issue that in the minds of too many white folk who are still in charge, we're no more than 3/5 of a man, 3/5 of a human being. And so when we talked about discrimination, there were many white folk who had no idea what we were talking about because they loved their animals, they loved their pets. They treated them fairly. They made sure they were fed and clothed and had a roof over their head. So what more could we do for you? I mean, after all, and so we applaud decisions like Brown v. Board of Education. And at the time, Donnie, you know, at the time, I understand how the conventional thought was that was progress. But you don't make progress by kicking the can down the road. All that does is get you closer to the edge of the cliff. Sometimes you got to stop and stand your ground, so to speak. You got to stop and define for yourself who you are, whose you are, and say, I'll go this far, but no farther.
So let me ask you, is that what Kamala has done? And a very interesting point was made on WEAA last night.
Yeah.
That they reminded us of how Kamala got in the race relatively late. Do you think she's made enough progress to win? You think Biden passed off the ball soon enough? Or did he do the Lamar Jackson fake handoff and hold the ball too long?
I think Kamala has had enough time to show us who she is and where she would draw the line. And I personally, I don't like what I've seen. I'll be quite honest with you. Hey, but it wouldn't matter because there's no power that I know of on earth that would make me support Trump. But at all, it wouldn't matter. Mickey Mouse, Captain Kangaroo, Captain Chesapeake could be running. You know. But now looking at Kamala, apart from who she's running against, looking at her individually, she's not drawn the line where I think it ought to be drawn. She's not stood up for righteousness. She has not stood up for humanity.
And you blame her handlers?
Her handlers. I assume she's taking advice maybe from her brother-in-law, maybe from other people. But she is not called, she's not called a spade a spade. She's not done that. And because she hasn't done that, I think she's going to leave way too many black folks sitting on the arm of the chair on election day or during the early voting period, or not even open the mail to consider mailing in a ballot.
You think she needs a I have a dream moment, huh?
Yes. I think she needs a drum. She needs an inspirational moment. She needs to speak to the hopelessness in the minds and hearts of the average black person, and she hasn't done that. She's got the never Trumpers like me. She's got the elite, the intellectuals, the academia. She's got the fraternities and the sororities. She's got the urban leagues and the NAACP, but she don't have Joe Black. She don't have Joe Black. Joe Black is still sitting on the arm of the chair. If she's lucky, he may have been cajoled into falling over into the Trump camp because he don't really understand what strength is. He don't know who the enemy really is. He still thinks you can make a snake into something good.
Do you think a lot of women are going to vote for her, but they just won't make any noise publicly?
I think she will get, when you say a lot of women, I think she will get the majority of the female vote, certainly among black women, and I think she'll get a substantial portion even among white women. But I think that, and don't get me wrong, I think that even as things stand, she can win, but it shouldn't be as close as it is. It shouldn't be as close as it is because, and it wouldn't be as close as it is had she done something inspirational for the black community, for Joe Black sitting on the arm of the chair. And let's
go take over to this Trump character. Shouldn't he be locked up in jail somewhere? I mean, they locked up P. Diddy on some stuff he's been doing for 20 years.
Well,
not that he was there alone. I mean, they got a whole list of people who were there with him, not excusing it. And I don't think I'll ever buy another bottle of baby oil in my life.
Yeah. Well, Donnie, you got to understand that the genie that Trump let out of the bottle and allowed to have free reign was that, hey, white folks, yes, we are superior. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to act like that. It's okay to reaffirm that. It's okay to reestablish that in the minds and hearts of everybody. And that is why ultimately the media has been on Trump's side from day one. They know he'll say or do anything. They know that his goal is just to accumulate power like he can anything else. They know he's transactional. They know he has no permanent friends. They know that that his mind is all about what you did, not what you did for me yesterday, but what you can do for me today, and more importantly, what you offer me right now. And start the conversation by kissing the ring. But they know all of these things about him. They've known him for years. They knew his father. But they also know that the fundamental principle that he says is okay, that reaffirms, is that white people are in charge because they're supposed to be. And this
manifest destiny thing, this Judge Taney 3/5 of a human being thing.
That's exactly right. That unfortunately, even the so-called liberal whites believe in that. They don't express it the way they don't say it. They're not gonna call Puerto Rico a floating garbage island. They're not gonna say that Latinos.
Hold up. I thought Puerto Rico was the part of the United States.
Well, it and I know you're being. Of course, this is U.S. time. And if you're Puerto Rican and live in the United States, you can't vote, but not if you live in Puerto Rico. The Puerto Ricans who live in Puerto Rico can't vote, but the Puerto Ricans who live in the United States can vote.
My grandfather was from Puerto Rico on my mother's side.
Yeah, I mean, so but everybody knows it's a floating garbage island. I mean, come on, everybody knows that Latinos love making babies because they love coming inside, just like they love coming into our country. Everybody knows that all black people eat watermelon. That ain't no secret.
White people eat watermelon. White people eat. I see white people eating raw farm chicken just like everybody else.
And we live in a time when truth doesn't matter. What did Kellyanne Conway say? You know, truth is not really the truth, or truth is not always the truth, or there can be an alternative truth. Or Rudy Giuliani, who's now I don't know, maybe he's living in somebody else's car because they took his car, they took his condo in New York. He still got the one in Florida. But Giuliani said the truth isn't always true. Well, it's not what is. But people grasp hold of that, not because they believe it, but because it makes them feel good. Everybody's moved by their emotions, Donnie. And once you start thinking, see, your heart is good, but your heart wasn't designed to think. That's not where. But we using the wrong organs for the wrong things. We move by emotions and not by intelligence.
How do you make it through a week? You know, having experienced such a tragic loss in the middle of a heated election. How do you make it through? What do you cling to in times like this?
I always remember and try to never forget what it feels like to be down, and how you get up. What I cling to is the faith and hope that God is in charge. And that I have to live like that one day at a time. So what happened yesterday doesn't control what I do today. And he tells me, don't worry about tomorrow. Have faith in me today. And it is day by day. It is absolutely day by day. So
you reflect back on the lessons from the good book.
Yes. Yes, and people say, well, you know, I read a book now, How to Make a Negro a Christian. Christianity and believing God are not necessarily the same thing.
Say that again for the people in the back.
Christianity and belief in God are not necessarily the same thing.
Because I know there's a few deacon or deaconesses that chase me about it at church. Oh, you got to go in this, all these rules. I went to a noted preacher's church one time, interviewed him before the sermon, and just before the sermon, he went in and set me down. Big, humongous mega church. And as soon as he sits me down and go back to his office, the ushers come over and say, you can't sit here. And I ended up leaving. And I was like, how many church people chase people out of church?
Yeah. And you know that we got a lot of pimps in the pulpit. You know that. It used to be our solace, because that was how we maintained the connection with grandma. Because grandma, and like Bill Withers said, in grandma's hands, what grandma woke me up on Sunday morning. I said, I don't care what you said.
Church on Sunday morning.
That's right. You go where you want to on Saturday night, but Sunday morning, you live in this house, you going to church.
Played the tambourine so well.
That's exactly right. And we get a time when everything is for sale, including the pulpit.
Used to issue out a warning. Scotty, why you run so fast? Might fall on a piece of grass.
The snake's there in that grass.
Yeah. But I don't have grandma anymore.
Well, but we do.
We do.
We do have grandma. The world would tell us that grandma is irrelevant today. But if you want to get through this world, you better hold on to grandma. Grandma left a mark. Grandma's in our hearts. The same place where every good thing that we ever have, where the good spirit is. That's where grandma is. The fact that we and I can have this exchange means grandma's still alive.
Yes, sir.
And grandma as well.
She could take some rice and some gravy and touch it like people just can't touch it today. I don't know what she put it. Might have just been salt and pepper, but they put a measure of love in that food. All I know is she throw a little bit of chops up in that pot and some greens from last night. And boy, you couldn't wait to sit at that table. I mosey on in the kitchen. Good evening. And she would say this, Mr. Bob. Oh, you can speak now.
Yeah.
Grandma taught go in there and wash your hands and sit at the table and act like you got some sense.
Grandma taught us what the real meaning of love and most importantly, and as importantly, sacrifice. Grandma taught us that love means sacrifice. You can't define love without including sacrifice. You can't love without sacrifice. And that means you don't give until it hurts. You give until it helps. You don't give.
I asked Grandma one time, I said, Grandma, you pray for all of us? She had about 19 grandchildren, however many it was. I said, you pray for all of us, Grandma? She said, I pray for all of you. Yeah. I said, Grandma, you can pray anywhere, even in the bathroom? She said, you can pray wherever you want.
Wherever you want, and there ain't no special words. Sometimes, Donnie, and people say, well, how, we don't see this in you. And I say, most of my prayers are only 3 words long. That's God help me. That's most of my prayers. That's the prayer that I repeat most often. And it's only 3. God help me. And amen.
Amen.
And thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah. Because people ask me, well, especially when they hear things about my nephew, he got killed, and my sister who died from HIV and overdose. How did you get out? I said, by grace. How did you escape? Why are you the one? I said, by grace. I said, I didn't decide that. That wasn't my decision.
Because we did everything to mess it up, didn't we?
I did. I did and still do. See, and the same grace is still sufficient.
Grace getting what we don't deserve. Mercy not getting what we do deserve.
Absolutely. So we don't want justice. We want mercy. We need mercy. And grace is the vehicle that delivers it to us. But if we got justice, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because we wouldn't be. I don't know about you. I can't speak for you.
Oh, Mr. Bob, I done messed up so many times. But they say fall down 7 times, get up 8.
And they say, how many times must I forgive my brother?
7 times 70.
7 times 70. That means more times, as many times as you can count. As many times as forgiveness is necessary, because I forgave you for all of your sins. Now, the ones that they haven't even committed yet. How do you know? Because I know you. I made you. I know what you're going to do. And that kind of faith, that kind of hope, that kind of all righty.
You still with us?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to. Did I hit something?
No, everything is fine.
All right. Well, anyway, yeah. You don't need to see my face anyway. So yeah, that kind of.
We see you. Everything. You still there on camera?
Oh, okay. I lost your camera then, but I'm not even going to try to find it. So yeah, it's faith, man. You can't make it. I mean, from at least I don't think we can, from one day to the other without having some faith. But it's not the kind of faith that you can put up on the shelf and say, and store it up. I got enough for the week. It's the kind of, you got to keep going back to the well every day and get a little more to fill that cup back up. The well never runs dry, but you got to continually fill the cup. The cup can run dry if you don't fill it up. And pray. And the only time that you're allowed to fill the cup up is during prayer.
God help me. God help me, and amen.
That's it.
Mr. Bob, we want to wish you encouragement and prayers go out to our brother, one of our brothers who we found out has a sickness, and we pray his healing. We know
that's Dr. Z. For those who don't know, that's Dr. Z. and we do pray. We do extend our prayers for him and for the treatment that he's about to undergo, and for his recovery from his illness.
And he said, call me up. He said, don't wait. Don't wait to visit. Pick up the phone and call me.
Exactly
Encourage
right.
me. And I called him yesterday and he was on his way out the door. I was like, wow, look at that straight. But thank you also for your friendship, Mr. Bob, through good times and bad times. And we just got to get out there and practice, like grandma say, like they say in the church, put the faith in action.
Exactly right. Do something, as somebody said. Do something.
Do something.
All right, I'm going to run. Thank you.
Right, top of the day to you. Thank you for listening to and watching the New Life Recovery Show. If I think better, I do better.